Hi, friend, and welcome to another episode of the Quantum Paradigm Podcast. I am your host, Allison Alchemia, and today we have a very special guest joining us. We are going to have Jai McDowall on to share with us how he manifested winning Britain's Got Talent. So I'm going to pause this really quickly to see if he is with us. Okay, we've got Meredith. We're trying to see if Jai is here yet. We are navigating some technical issues. It's been a funky kind of morning. And usually, what I have found, guys, is that the best conversations sometimes take a little bit of like wiggling to get to. So it looks like, okay, here we are. Jai is getting on. We have Jai here, and we are going to share with you a little bit about his story. I think he's got a question or two for me that he's curious about. Hi, Jai.
Hello. So
Can you
I'm
hear
gonna
me
have.
okay?
I can.
Okay,
I can.
great.
Apparently, you cannot do a Facebook, an Instagram live from a MacBook. Who knew?
I
Um,
just figured this out myself
yeah.
in real
So,
time.
uh, so I have no headphones.
Okay,
However,
perfect. Well, now I do because earlier I didn't and you did. So we've switched.
oh, that's not fun. But anyway, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for being here today. This is going to be fun.
I know
Um,
I'm excited.
Yeah, so I want to share just a little bit of context first with the audience of how we met, because I think a little bit of storytelling just gets everybody into the energy of the deeper concepts that are going to be kind of unveiled just organically through these types of conversations. So we met through a mutual friend of ours, Meredith McCrindle,
Yes.
who I believe is live with us right now.
Yeah.
And I know. Um, and so you were in Scotland, okay?
I am.
Yeah. So you're in Scotland. Meredith also lives in Scotland, but Meredith's family and Meredith herself, they're from here, where I live in Colorado, in northern Colorado. So Meredith had invited me to speak at an expo. I had been really excited about that. So I was like, I'm just going to share really quickly from my perspective. And I'm doing this a little bit, I'm surprising a little bit because I don't think I've actually really shared what happened on my end when I met you. Um, but I'm going to anyway. So I had been at the expo all day. That day was amazing. First of all, it snowed, like it dumped
Oh yeah.
snow.
So
Oh my
did.
God. We woke up, we were expecting hundreds of people, and we still had a good turnout, but there was so much snow on the ground overnight that I just immediately, I woke up that morning, I was like, oh my God, Meredith and all of the crew, like, I hope everyone's doing okay. This is kind of a curveball. So I had been like digging my car out of, I don't know, almost 8 inches of snow. It was a good deal. Um, I got there at 8 a.m., I guess. Anyway, by the end of the night, it was like a 13, 14-hour day. And I just remember it going so fast. I had a
Yeah.
great day. It was amazing, right? Yeah. So I was kind of like I was in work mode. I was presenting a couple times. I was speaking, and I was just talking with a lot of people who were coming by to ask questions, whatever. So I was in work mode. I noticed this really good looking guy kind of like making some eye contact throughout the day. I don't know if you've looked in the mirror lately, Jai McDowall, but you're not that hard to look at or notice. So I was like, and I had known in the back of my mind, I mean, Meredith had told me, she's like, my best friend Jai is going to be there, winner of Britain's Got Talent. I'm like, cool. But I hadn't put two and two together. I didn't know who you were because
Yeah.
I haven't watched TV in so long. Although
Nice.
the
Yeah.
little bit of TV that I have watched is usually something like Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent, or like these amazing shows where people are given a chance, right, to prove themselves and share who they are and their talents and stuff. So, anyways, I had sort of noticed this person who was just striking with striking features, and I'm like, cool. But I was paying you no mind whatsoever. Just like paying no mind at all. And then at the end of the night, I was kind of like out of work mode finally. And I was relaxing at dinner, talking with some of the other presenters, and you got up on stage and you sang for us, for those of us at the after dinner. And my audience may or may not know this about me. I'm a classical musician. I've been playing classical piano for 35 years. And so to have good live music, I mean, good, it does something for my soul, right? It's just like medicine for me. But I was paying attention, I was like, oh, this must be Jai. That's Jai. Oh, that's the guy. That's Jai, right? Like, so like connection points were happening in my brain. And then you started singing, and I'm still getting emotional just thinking about it. And I've had the deep honor and pleasure of hearing you perform, seeing you perform twice live now. And each time was so unique, but the thread, and you even see this on at the auditions, right, at BGT. If you look it up on YouTube, I, I just immediately saw who you are when you were on stage. I immediately saw your heart. I saw your soul. Of course, it helps that I'm psychic and I can see straight through people and whatnot, but that tends to make people uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to. It was just magic what you did with the audience just by being yourself. It just like struck me right in the chest. I was like, whoa. So that was my experience. But then afterwards, so I was like, I really should have a conversation with this guy. He's, there was like eye contact all day. I was like, I'm gonna say goodnight. Thank you for performing. Good night. Um, but then, but then you struck up a conversation with me, and you're like, I loved your talk. You're
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'll ask you to elaborate, and then I'll shut up and let you take over. But um, like you said, I used what you call quantum manifestation. I used that to win Britain's Got Talent. And I was just like, tell me more. And then I don't know how long you and I were there, but we sat
Quite a
down.
while.
We were like an
Yeah.
hour and a half, and we were just like,
You were like, I need to go home 5 times ago. Um,
yeah.
no, that was a great conversation, and I don't know. So I'd come to your talk throughout the day with Gary, and I was just blown away by how much you'd changed your own life through manifestation. And I've always known, like back in the day, so back in it would have been roughly 2010, I think, when I first auditioned for Britain's Got Talent, and then throughout the next 9 months, you go through the process and you go down to London and you do other stages of the journey. And I I was reading the book The Secret, so it's all about the law of attraction and manifestation and bringing your desires to fruition. And I I still, I mean, to this day, I still maintain that my life sort of aligned itself in order to give me the space to be in my own thoughts and have more space to create more of a positive attitude and um, to just focus on what I truly wanted for my own life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in in having that, I was able to then just get real with what I wanted to do, and I knew, from a very young age, I've been very lucky. My dad is a singer as well, and his parents were singers, and so I've grown up with it, and I used to gig with him, most weekends and things like that.
I didn't know
So
that.
I've
That's so cool.
yeah, so I've always known that I wanted to sort of do it on a professional level. But where I grew up, the lifestyle people here live here even, um, is not one that's sort of conducive to people,
Yeah.
going on to become what I would have said pop star,
Yeah.
as a kid. And so, yeah, like, and that's the beauty of shows like, Britain's Got Talent, X Factor, all those sort of things, because it's it's a way to give ordinary people a chance to realize those dreams. And so back then I'd auditioned for a lot of different things throughout the years. I'd auditioned for X Factor, I think 3 times maybe before this, and realized I think this is the right way to go about it, but I think this is the wrong show. And it was things like, you know, throughout the years you see different people succeeding in these competitions. So for me, it was the likes of Susan Boyle,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm. My
and
God.
she just blew
Oh my
up all over the world.
God. Yeah.
And I was like, this is incredible. If Susan's from Scotland as well, and if she can go on to do it, then why can't I? Again, that also was helping to break down sort of some of the barriers that I had, because I saw someone else who was from Scotland, from a similar-ish background, going on to achieve something incredible.
Yeah.
And and yeah, so I just sort of went for it. I put in the application form, didn't think anything of it. My dad likes to take the credit for this application form, so we'll just pretend that it was him. and
Okay. Thanks, Dad.
and he and then I went for it, and then throughout the process, as I said, like, I was trying to keep this positive attitude. I was trying to keep my spirits up, because I had done auditions before. I knew what rejection was. I knew how much it hurt. I knew, all that. And I just thought, at this point, I'd got my own house, and I was doing that up, and I was in my own space, and so I was able just to. And it wasn't. I'll be really honest. I didn't. I've always been into sort of meditation, all that sort of thing, but I didn't sit and meditate for hours and hours on my vision. I didn't have vision boards at that point. I didn't have all that sort of thing. It was just maintaining this higher vibration.
Yeah.
I think because I had a good job at the time that I really enjoyed, and I was very lucky that the people around me at the time, my boss and the people I worked with, were good people, and they just created a lovely environment. And the people around me, friends, family, that sort of thing, was all pretty good. And so I was able to just plow away, keep at it, and stay sort of positive. And I remember the first time I realised that I was sort of purposely keeping my keeping my thoughts on a higher vibration
Mm-hmm.
was actually the semi-final reveal. So
Really?
yeah, and I'd been through a lot of
Okay.
stages, but at this point,
Okay. Can I
oh no,
interrupt you right here?
you
And we'll
can,
come
you can.
right back to that because I,
Okay,
I definitely want to continue that. So we're just gonna pin that at the semifinal review.
okay.
I resonate so deeply with what you were saying about just the ordinary life and wanting to expand and follow your dreams. And one of the nights that we were at one of these pubs here in town when you were still visiting the States, I sent you I sent you the title of a book, and we never followed that up. But basically, the book is called the fighting the fighting Irish or something
You did.
born fighting, how the Scots Irish like influenced
And if
America, right?
this was after Moonshine, I
it was
remember nothing.
it was well after Moonshine.
Ugh.
We'll leave that for
Yeah. Don't take Moonshine, kids. It's not good for you. However,
especially at altitude in Colorado.
fine.
That was such a fun evening. Anyways, so the thread there is that uh, the people of Scotland and Ireland and my people in Kentucky, in the Appalachian region of the United States of America, we have a lot in common, I believe. And when I just want to acknowledge the significance of even daring to dream when you are just growing up in the ordinary, right?
Yeah.
And when you're growing up around people who work really, really fucking hard for what they have,
Yeah.
right? And there's a beautiful sense of pride that the Scots and the Irish, I believe, and like even people like from Kentucky, like we've got this pride in what we have because we know that we've worked so deeply for it, right?
Yeah.
And so I just want to plant this seed to come back to it later because there's so much wrapped up in identity. I was even taking my own self through my medicine and my protocol last night because I was realizing, wow, the reason I haven't reached my next level that I'm currently manifesting is because I'm afraid of leaving people behind. Whew.
Yeah.
And even just saying that in my body like makes me want to cry because there's an identity and there's such a loyalty. You're a Leo sun, I'm a Leo rising, and I know how we feel about our people, right? Like we just love from our hearts, and we would never want to leave anyone behind. So, um, and your identity is what you're putting out into the field, into the quantum field. That's the vibration that you're vibing at, right? So, I just really want to honor how significant and bold and courageous it was for the version of you 15, 20 years ago to even be thinking and pursuing the idea of like, oh yeah, I'll audition
Yeah.
for X Factor. I'll go audition for BGT. You know, even that must have been an extraordinary journey.
Yeah, I think for me at the time, and you're right in what you say, like even now, there's a lot of things I want to achieve still.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the blockages as such that I have is that I don't want to leave, family, friends,
Yeah.
my dog.
Yeah.
Definitely my dog. He he's my guy. But but no, and it can be difficult because you get into a comfortable life situation and you know that if you leave or if you move. So, for instance, for me, one thing that I continually, even recently, get asked was why I don't live in London.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, the reason I don't live in London is A, I live in a very beautiful place,
Yeah.
but also it's so dear to live in London. I'd be selling body parts just to feed myself. Um, but no, but it can be such a strange thing because part of it is all those reasons, but part of it is that you have to change or you have to change your circumstances in order to take that next
Yeah.
step. And it can be really difficult to just see another life on the other side of it because I mean I know what it's like to change my entire life. I've done it.
Yeah.
But to have that, there's still that fear
Yeah.
of taking those steps forward because like I read the book The Subtle Art of Not Giving a
Mm-hmm.
Fuck quite recently, and one of the quotes in it is basically you can be afraid of success, but you can also be afraid of failure, but also success because either one of those will change who you think you are.
Yeah.
Um,
Without a doubt.
and And that's a scary concept because change is something that we just don't like as humans. And it's funny because I mean, I do like, obviously I spent time in Colorado, but I've spent time all over the world and I've traveled and I'm always on the go and there's always change in my life. So you'd think I'd be like, oh, it's fine, you know. And a friend of mine once said to me that life would be boring without change.
Mm,
And they're right.
yeah.
However, it doesn't make it any
Yeah.
easier because it's just a little bit scary. But we all have big choices. Like my parents are talking about. Well, they are moving, soon. Um, and that's another change. And I'm like, what do I do? Do I go with them? Or do I
Yeah.
take this chance to make a change, like a bigger change for me?
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, it's just yeah, life is full of moments like that, and I think it's the whole sliding doors moments, and you can make one change, one tiny insignificant change that might change your entire life.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah. And so I still do want to come back in a second to what was going on at the semifinals because I'm very curious. Before we do that, um, I want to get your thoughts on what you think about because we just talked about like we don't want to leave anybody behind, right? Like I know what my next level looks like. I know what the dollar amount looks like. I know what the success looks like. And I actively have people showing up who are literally like begging to produce me and ask and like direct me and all these things. And I'm like, okay, so it's here. And I am saying yes. And then there's that thing that's like, I mean, most of this is subconscious and it lives in the body, right? It lives like in the 3D body. And that's part of quantum manifestation. That's what I say is a big part of what differentiates quantum manifestation from what we would call like just, I don't know, what most people think is manifestation because we're incorporating the body. However, um, when I think of leaving people behind, the other voice that comes in for me is, but what about all the people who are looking to you to succeed and
yeah,
want you to succeed so that they can follow in your footsteps? And for
yeah,
me, and when I say that to myself, it doesn't land quite as well as I would hope it does. But I can look at you, and I truly believe that we are all just different angles of the mirror back to ourselves. And like when I look at you, I see like you have reinvigorated my love for my instrument and like you have you don't even know the little domino effect that our paths crossing has done for me already. And like we just got started a couple weeks ago. So
oh,
like
that's nice.
so I mean it's super cool that because you followed your dreams and you busted out of that comfortable box that you're having that kind of effect on other people. So it's really easy for me to look at you and say that, but when I look at me and say that to myself, I'm like, nah, I don't know if I buy it, you know?
Yeah, but then that's the thing as well. It's like you're saying that to me, whereas I probably wouldn't say that to me. Like um, I remember coming off Britain's Got Talent back in 2011, and I went to my local primary school, and one of the teachers who was my teacher said to me, "You've no idea what you've done for the kids." Like, and I was like, "Oh no, it's
Yeah.
not. It's nothing. It's nothing." But when I went home and actually thought about it, I was like, "Oh, actually, I know what you mean. Like that's because you've almost broken the ceiling on what's possible for
Yeah.
them." And that's a weird thing to think about because it's just even now, like 13 years on, I'm just me. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I haven't, and
Totally.
I don't like I went with Meredith actually to see friends of ours at the local theatre on Saturday night, and again I go into the gate. People know who I am, but I also have friends and people there who have seen the show who are my friends or who I've known over the years, but then there's also other people who look at me differently
Yeah.
than they would. Do you know?
Yep.
And it baffles my
Yeah.
brain. It baffles my brain because again, I'm just me.
Yeah.
I'm just me, and and it's nice, and it's lovely to go and see other people on stage, and it's funny because I don't get to watch other performers, and it's it's strange when you obviously when you're saying about seeing me on stage and even there was a couple of other people at both events in Colorado who spoke very highly about me and what I was doing and how I'd made them feel and I was like I
Yeah.
don't I don't get this with people. However, so the people that we went to see the other night were the McDowall brothers, who are friends of ours, and I was watching them on stage, going, "These guys are great! This is amazing! This is such a great show." And then you sit with them and you have a coffee, and you're going, "Yeah, but you're just,
Yeah,
Brian and Craig.
yeah.
You're just my mates." But it's funny because it must be the same. I don't know. Like maybe when I'm on stage, maybe that's what people mean. But however, who knows? Who knows? But
It's well, go ahead.
but also, sorry, but also part of that is what you were saying before, when especially when it's performers, but when anyone does something in their life that makes them feel connected to who they truly are,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
shine. Like you become the best version of who you are. And I used to, before I was a performer, I used to work in a pub. I used to work behind the bar, and I used to tell people that there was two different Jais. There was Jai during the day, and then there was pub
Yeah.
Jai, because I was a completely different person, because I had a completely different persona for that job.
Yes.
And it's and that's almost so it's yeah, so that's almost part of. So again, I've read up on it through the years and whatnot, but I truly feel that different persona is it's just a different facet of who you are for a start.
Totally.
But if you want to get better, if you want to be better, it's already there. You just need to step into that persona, that other you, the better you, the I don't know, more confident or
Yeah.
more articulate or more I don't know how
Yeah.
to,
No, no, I get what
more
you're
articulate.
saying.
I don't know how to articulate, but let me step into that guy. Um, but yeah, and it's just and it's such a I don't know, it's such a strange thing because we all do have different personas for different things, um and even now, like when I go on stage, there are moments, where I can be, it doesn't matter at the stage, but I, I can be singing and I'm not here. Like
Well,
I'm somewhere else.
it's like you're
I am,
channeling at that
yeah,
point.
I am genuinely the best version of me. I am connected to whatever source, universe, creator that I am,
Yeah.
I'm just loving life. Loving life.
You know what you're saying right there. You're saying that you're not being articulate, but I think you're getting it right because you kept saying over and over, you're like, I am,
Oh, yeah,
I am.
yeah,
Like when you're on
it is.
stage, you are. And it's not just that you have to be on stage to access that, but but that really lets you know that that's your genius. That's your zone of
Yeah,
genius. And expanding that and following that wherever you want that to go is you living at your highest and best,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, it's so amazing. So so if you want to backtrack a little bit to the semifinals, I'm still very
yeah,
curious about this.
yeah.
You said that the first time that you really realized that you were consciously working on your thought patterns was at the semifinal review.
Yeah. So at so basically by this point we'd done one audition which wasn't live, and then we went down to London to a place called Hammersmith Polo, and we were all there, and there was lots of us, like hundreds of people, and they put you into different groups and took you away and got you onto stage, um and then told you whether you were through or not. And the act that I was through with at the time, I was like, there's two dog acts. They're not going to put two dog acts through. Like the two. So there was a singing
Yeah.
dog, and can't remember, was it? I think that the other dog done tricks, and then a guy who could pop his eyes out his head, which was a bit
Oh, I remember
intense.
that guy. I
Yeah.
think. Did he make it to the did he anyways, there's some
Uh,
weird auditions out
well,
there.
so at this point, I'm going, oh, this is me. And bear in mind, I'd auditioned for things before, right? So I'd been told no, and I sort of almost recognised a pattern.
Hmm. Hmm.
But then in my head, I was like, no, stop it. Stop it. Just be positive. It's fine. Just stay up there. Because I didn't so to put you in my mind frame, this was my last attempt at
Okay.
going for this, because I'd been for a lot of things from a very young age, maybe like 15, 16, and I'd auditioned for a lot, and I'd sent away a lot of demos, and I'd done a lot of different things, and I just was like, I like my job. If this is where I'm
So
supposed to
this
be,
was
this is where I'm supposed
your
to be.
Hail Mary. This was like, this is it.
Mm,
If
pretty
it
much,
doesn't
pretty
work
much.
out, I'm done.
And then I yeah, I just kept on, and the judges at the time were giving it the you have to be good enough for royalty, you have to sing, for the Queen.
Hmm.
We can't just put anyone through, etc., etc. And so I, in my head, I was like, oh my, oh my, and I thought, no, keep up, keep up. And if you watched that that particular moment, they tell you beforehand, they're like, please don't swear, and don't cover your face.
Okay.
So although I was trying to keep my head above the water as such, I, I, yeah, I thought I was going home. So, so when they said we were through, I went, oh my, but I couldn't cover my face.
Oh my God, I would have
But I
died.
went, yeah, I nearly said fuck. I was like,
I
oh,
was gonna say, I don't
and I
want
was
to.
like, but then I went to cover my face because I knew I was going to swear, and then
And
I
you
did
can't
this,
cover your
and I
face.
looked like I'm biting my because I was like laughing. And I was like, "Oh, this is horrendous." But I got through. I got through. Um, and yeah, I mean, oh God, that was mental. Then I realised you're you're doing this.
Yes. Oh my
You are, you know, keeping yourself up there so that I don't know, your reality is
So
better
you had a
or different,
moment,
or
yeah,
yeah,
you had a moment where you realized that you were creating
yeah.
your reality.
And then, well, you know about the next story about the jacket. Do you want me to
Yes,
keep
I would
going?
love, yes, that was my next question anyway.
Right, okay.
So perfect.
No, well, ask your question first if you want, and then
Well,
we can
okay.
keep going.
Yeah, so the night that you and I met, you um yeah, you came up to me and you were like, I love your talk on quantum manifestation,
Yeah,
and I want to tell you the story of how I did that to win Britain's Got Talent. And then
yeah,
you did. And so the only thing I want to preface this before you share is that that using this item in the 3D, this jacket, actually does reinforce what I believe and what I teach and what I help my clients with, which is you do use the 3D material world in a very super consciously aware way to shift whatever the circumstance is that you want to manifest something better. In this case, you wanted to win. So I think you're about to tell the story of the final audition.
well,
Is that
yeah.
or
So,
what?
well, so
Yeah.
to lead up to this, I actually, in my head, didn't go in with the intent of winning. I thought if I get a live audition or a televised audition, I can use that for YouTube and then
Mm-hmm.
see where that goes. Because people like Justin Bieber were you know a f- only out a few years by this point, but obviously they were getting discovered on YouTube
Yeah.
and long before TikTok came out. And I just thought, if I can get on the stage and if I can get that, then I'm fine.
Okay.
And then what happened was after the semi-final reveal, things start picking up a bit, and it's going to be a live show. So they take you shopping. They take you down to London. They take you shopping, and all of these things again. I'd been to London maybe once, twice, maybe
Yeah.
before this. I think once with school and then once with friends. But again, those are those kind of trips where you don't really take the helm. I'm being led by people
Sure.
because they know better than I do, and so. Um, I went down and I met this lovely stylist, Zoe, and she took me shopping to all the very expensive places that I could not afford to shop in at this point. And I was like, holy shit, this is mental. And and again, I was still trying to just lap it up and enjoy it and make sure that I wasn't hindering myself by being negative.
Sure.
And so we went into lots of different shops, one of which was All Saints, and I don't know if you have that in the
I,
States. No,
not in Colorado. I don't think.
not in
I don't.
right. Okay. Well, anyway, it's a back in the day, it was like black jeans, kind of worn out t-shirts,
Yeah.
leather, that sort of stuff, and that was sort of my look to begin with,
Hmm.
anyway. But we went into this shop and we were looking around, and we came across this leather jacket. And she was like, "Oh, try this on." We didn't look at the price, and she was like, "Try it on." And I tried this jacket on, and I became a different person. I was like, "Who's this guy? Who's this guy?" And it was just great because I loved that jacket. We then looked at the price. It was not cheap. However, I and in that moment, as soon as I put it on, I was like, "I want this jacket.
Over. That
I
is your
want it.
jacket. Yeah.
It belongs." And that was actually it. It belonged on
Yeah.
my body. It was
Yeah.
mine.
I saw you in that
Um,
jacket on that audition.
and
It did belong.
I So yeah, so anyway, so Zoe goes away, she makes some calls, and they come back and say that she got the authorization to buy it. So I was like, oh God. So then that was fine, and a couple of other little things happened before we got to the semi-final. And I just so happened to hear one of the days that if you get through to the final, it means that you're on the tour
Hmm.
after the show, and then that means that you get to keep the clothes. So I was like, well, I need to get to the final because I want this jacket. And I don't have 380 quid to spare just to drop on a leather
Right.
jacket. So I wanted the jacket. And and then we get to the semi final, and they don't so basically they switched my songs around
Okay.
in the last week. And for a good reason. They wanted, they were like, we think this is the stronger song of the two. And so I sang Bring Me to Life in the semi final
Hmm.
uh, on the Thursday night. And I instinctively was like, this is a rock song. Why are we not wearing a leather jacket? Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
However, turns out they wanted to show a bit of skin. They were like, oh, sex appeal. I was like, nah, I don't have biceps. I still don't have biceps. Anyway, and so basically, I didn't wear it. I didn't wear the jacket. So then in my head, I was like, no, if I need to get to the final, because if I don't get to the final now, I don't get to wear the jacket,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't get to keep the jacket. So it basically meant, so in my head, because I hadn't even worn the jacket on TV, there wasn't, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I hadn't even had the chance to wear
Yeah.
it, so I needed to wear it, and so yeah, so basically, got to the semi final happened, got to the final, which was phenomenal, mind blowing, and they told me I was going to wear the jacket, so I was so excited about this jacket.
Okay, a mini
So,
pause, and then I'm gonna shut
yeah,
up. Okay, so knowing that you are a Leo sun, and then we found out when you were in Colorado, you are a Libra rising.
yes,
Two of those put together, Leos, Libras, even Taurus, like we have to feel good in our own skin. We have to, when we look in the mirror, this is not something about vanity or like,
mhm,
it's not about that whatsoever. It's just that we know that we shine better for people, and there's something
yeah,
magical when we look beautiful. And so that jacket, I mean, it could sound so trivial, but my God, look at what that jacket has done and that relationship that you had with it. So
yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to really, reinforce and validate all of this. This whole thing is so awesome.
Well, as if we need any more validation,
Right.
but I'll give you some. I so I ended up getting to the final, and I wore the leather jacket for the final.
Yeah.
And one of the very first comments that Simon Cowell made to me, after I performed, was that I walked on like a winner. And I was like, yeah, it's this jacket.
Yeah.
It's got magic powers.
Yeah.
Um, and even now, like I still have this jacket. I wore it. I'll wear it again at some point, but I wore it last year for Tartan Week in New York during the parade
Hmm.
for Tartan Week, and I was like, "This is great. I feel magic.
Yeah.
I feel wonderful." Um, and yeah, it's a jacket that it might be a little bit out of style, but I don't care. I'm still gonna wear it.
Leather jackets don't go that much out of style ever,
True.
in my
But
opinion.
this one does have big, massive lapels. It's a bit random. However, but no, and you're right in saying like like everyone, if you're going out on a night out and you think you look good or you feel
Yeah.
good or you're dressed in nicer clothes or whatever, you're gonna shine brighter.
Yep.
You're gonna have a good time. Whereas if you don't, then you pick different outfits, or you spend half an hour going through all these things, then you have to come back and put all the outfits away again before you can go to
Right.
bed.
And
Pain in the ass.
it's all about
But
vibration too.
yeah,
Like it literally changed everything about everything, right?
yeah.
It changed your whole life.
But yeah, it did. I'm very grateful to Zoe in that leather jacket. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Thanks, All Saints. If you want to give me another one, that'd be great. What?
So the head game that you played with yourself. So because sometimes this whole manifestation thing it's not sometimes. It's always a mind game because we according to like the law of attraction, right? Or even the law of assumption too comes into here, but we do attract what wherever we are vibing is what is coming into our field.
Yeah,
And so you kind of mind hacking and reverse engineering, like, I want to keep the jacket, literally won you the opportunity of a lifetime
yeah,
and the career of a lifetime.
yeah.
And this is just, this is amazing. Um, wow. So, how did you feel? It's such a cliche question, and I know it's been asked many times, but how did you feel when you won?
So, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't expect to win.
Yeah.
I I just wanted a jacket, and I actually was up. So my semi final, no, my final. Sorry, the runner up. That's what I was trying to say. The
Okay.
runner up was a lovely lad called Ronan Park, and at the time he was 12 years old,
Yeah.
cute as a button, could sing like nothing else, and I was like, I've lost it to this guy. Like this week, he was so cute, but I didn't. I kind of feel rotten about it sometimes. Like, oh, he was 12. I crushed his dreams. I'm sorry,
You
Ronan. I love you.
The way that you responded immediately
Oh,
after you won, I mean, I saw we saw what happened. You just embraced him. You
yeah. Oh,
just
it, the thing is, and actually, maybe doesn't make for good TV, but he was wonderful. He was a lovely, lovely kid,
yeah,
and his parents were
oh,
just beautiful people. And I thought, this is, I'm not a parent. I don't go out my way to hurt people. It's not something I do. Um, but we'd also kind of built up a good relationship the week prior, because of a lot of the things that were in the
hmm,
press and yada yada. And so we had to have a few chats where we needed to sort of air
sure,
the truth as such.
sure.
And the good thing about it is, even to this day, We still talk. You know, for years and years, I would talk to his mum and dad because he was still really young. We'd meet at events and we'd text back and forth, and then you know he's now really old, and I don't even want to tell you what age he is because A, I can't do quick math, and B, it'll make me feel it'll make me feel really old. No, he's 25, I think now, 24,
Wow.
25. In fact, the really scary thing is he is now the age I was when I won the show.
Oh my God.
Wow. See, I told you I didn't want to do that. I feel really old.
Wow.
But he's doing great. You know, and we still chat over social media and
Yeah.
things, you know, back and forth, and it's just it's nice, yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah. Amazing. So okay. We've covered a lot of ground. We'll start the descent to land the plane here in a minute. It's kind of like the Southern goodbye, like the night that I was like, yeah, I gotta go home like 5 times.
Yeah,
Um,
fine.
we'll do it 4 times maybe.
Okay.
Um, so so you achieved the dream. Okay, so you've won. You won Britain's Got Talent. It was the biggest thing in your life you've ever done. Incredible, amazing. After the success, after the winning and the achieving, and like, oh my God, this happened. You know, I guess what I'm trying to say is I work with a lot of people who are achieving like wild success that they've only previously yet dreamt about and didn't even know was possible. After it's achieved, is it all rainbows and unicorns? Does it magically solve all of your problems?
Oh, absolutely not. No, no,
What, really?
no. It's like those stories you hear when people win the lottery.
Yeah,
It doesn't. It sometimes, sadly, can create some issues that you never knew were there.
right?
And I have. Again, since meeting yourself and being over in the States and just having a little bit of downtime, because I've been very, very busy of late.
Mhm.
And so I haven't had a lot of headspace to sort of sit down and take stock. But I've sort of learned that over the years, I've built up a few blocks with certain things in my life that I want to, that I'd like to come to me that aren't. Um,
Mhm.
and I think some of that, because so uh, I remember this is going to get deep. I remember coming off the show and I wasn't as successful as other contestants who'd been previously been on the show.
Mhm.
And a lot of things happened that I didn't quite understand because I didn't know the industry. I wasn't from that world. And so I got a little bit weary and almost scared of the industry to the point
Mm.
where
Mhm.
I was like, do I want this? But then, in the same token of law of attraction, you bring what you want, I was putting my hands up
Mhm.
to what I actually wanted through fear of maybe crowds or loud noises or
Mhm.
um, you know, things like that. And I've learned over the years that I sometimes get overstimulated with loud noises. I
Mhm.
didn't know that back in the day,
Mhm.
but when we did the BGT tour, there was a lot of big crowds, there was a lot of screams, there was a lot of noise
Yeah.
in my head.
Yeah.
And instead of being able to sort of sort that out, I couldn't differentiate between the two.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't want that. So, you know, as the
I
genie of the lamp, you know, your wish is my command. And I was like,
yeah.
I don't want that. So I didn't get it. And yeah, and like as you get older, your priorities change anyway. But I've realised through self reflection that that's what's you know that's been the sort of journey, and that's been what's happening, um and I think you know it's strange to sort of see that pattern, and then now you're sort of like, right, well, I need to dive in somewhere and change
Yeah.
that because you know I love my job, I love doing what I do,
Mhm.
and I can handle it better now than I could at 24.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And so, yeah, it's just but it's unpicking those little threads, those little bits where it's in your subconscious already, so you're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I I'm seeing something and like really seeing something in the industry as you're talking. And I'm just sitting here thinking, how many performers have dealt with exactly this same thing? Because if you think about it, creatives are typically extraordinarily sensitive to their surroundings, right? Like where do we write the best songs? Where do we channel the best books that have ever been written, or the best lyrics or music or dance choreography or whatever it is that we're channeling through as art? Where does that usually happen? It usually happens in a calm, serene, beautiful environment, right? You're called, you love living in this beautiful place that you live. Like, artists are drawn to beauty and serenity for a reason. And
Yeah.
then, right? And then you put them or us. I shared why I don't perform yet with you, but um, you put a performer, an artist, on stage amidst all these artificial, huge sounds and lights and energies, and you're sensitive to energy, right? And so, wow, what a realization. And your nervous system was trying to protect you and keep you to where you felt good and safe and calm and peaceful. And so the tension there, it's not that incredible creatives and artists can't be wildly successful, but I do feel like, and this is something that I do a lot with my clients, is like creating energetic rituals around whatever it is. I work with a lot of healers, right? A lot of medical professionals, and people who are holding space for other people have to hold twice or thrice as much space for themselves with less time than other people have, right? So it's like
Mhm.
you have to kind of do this inward choreography with your own self, as far as like, okay, I'm about to go on stage, let's be
Yeah.
centered and present, right?
So
Go
yeah.
for it.
Yeah, no, I was just about to say that's exactly like before a show, I always say to people, I need at least 10 minutes just to sit.
Yeah,
And and sometimes it'll be elaborate, sometimes it'll be, grounding and creating a bubble and doing all
yeah,
that. Sometimes it's just silence. Sometimes I just need that time to sit and calm.
yeah,
Because, as a performer, I sort of, well, I mean, you touched on it earlier, like I like to give of
yeah,
myself. I don't want to just stand on a stage dead-eyed and perform. I hope I never do. I hope that's never something that anybody says about me, because yeah, because yeah. So one thing that I've sort of developed throughout my learning and years of delving into sort of healing arts and manifestation and law of attraction and things like that is that I I know I'm a healer,
yeah,
and my voice is my gift.
yeah,
That's how I use my voice. And s- when I'm on stage, it just that's I see it as sometimes a big white light, just comes right at me. And yeah, and I've that's a lot. It's a lot, before and after the show, because sometimes, a show will be late at night, and so you're running around all day. You could be traveling, you could be trying to eat, you could be, I don't know, I don't really know, but and then things could go wrong,
yeah,
or things, and so sometimes that little 5 minutes is paramount. And even like one thing, and I've really enjoyed this over the last kind of few years. I've been touring with a group called G4, and they do a meet and greet before the show, and it's lovely because you get to see the front row, and you get to connect with the audience, and you get to meet people and sort of have that um
yeah,
like, I don't know, energetic,
yeah.
you know
Energetic exchange.
really
Yeah,
exchange, that's the word, before a show. But on the same token, you're giving it
Yes.
all the time. So then that little 5 minutes is just, oh, it's key to just, right, I need a reset, I need a rebreather so that I can go out and do the next part of my job.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and it's just, and it's great, and it is, and it's good, and a lot of people do, I still get it to this day, like even, 13, 14 years on, about it being my job.
Hmm.
Or is that your only job? I'm like, yes. And it's fucking hard sometimes. It's
Yeah.
enjoyable. I love it.
Yeah.
But it's not as easy as people think. You give a lot of yourself, this part, my body, but also my mind and my heart and my
Yeah.
soul and my energy and 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 it can be tough. It can be
Yeah.
tough because the thing is as well, as the old saying goes, the show must go on. It doesn't matter what's going on in my life unless it's absolutely dire and I can't do a show. I have to do a show.
Yeah.
So and it doesn't matter, and I've done performances after people have died. I've done performances after an argument with a friend, or even or I've done performances after breakups. I've done
Right.
it's just and you've got to do it, and you've got to give the
Right.
same
It's like,
and yeah, and that can be tough because yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot, but
I think you're
yeah,
describing the role of any leader, whether it's in the music industry, whether it's a healer, any kind of a leader who's holding space. I mean, when you walk on stage, depending on the size of the room, you're holding space for anywhere from 100 to 10,000 people
yeah.
at once.
Well,
And
yeah, crikey.
yeah,
I've
Craig.
never thought about that.
Yeah.
I've never thought about
So
that at all.
yeah, well, and I've had I have kind of like I guess the secret of I've seen your human design chart. And so you have an open solar plexus.
I need to see this.
Yeah, I know. I'll send you a screenshot. um, and having an open solar plexus, what that basically means is that your body, this is not something that's conscious. You cannot control this. None of us can. I also share this. I have a completely open solar plexus. It makes us, well, I'll get there second. What your body is doing is it's literally pulling in the emotions of every single aura around you into your body,
Um,
and then it's amplifying it 2 times, 3 times, even up to 10 times, amplifying it in your own body.
wow.
So I hope that that gives you a lot of respect for the nerves that you experienced at your first audition with BGT.
Yeah.
I never told you this, Jai, but when I perform on my piano, my legs shake.
Ah,
My legs,
same.
I know. When I saw that on your audition, I was like, shut up. My knees, I mean, I've had dress heels like shoes on with slick soles on the bottom, and my little foot is on the pedal, like going like this, and it'll like slide off. It doesn't do it so much anymore, thank God. But but we can't control that so much. I
Yeah.
mean, with practice we can, but your body is charged with everyone else's emotions around you with an open solar plexus. So all that being said, the little ritual of a few minutes before, and definitely some kind of a ritual after, to just like just
Yeah.
totally decompress and let all that energetic stuff go back to the audience, whoever it belongs to, doesn't belong to you, right? That will go a long way, not only of regenerating your own energy, but like longevity, health, even. I have a client, one of my high proximity one on one clients is a concierge Ayurvedic wellness coach for artists, for performing artists.
Awesome.
It's what she does.
Great.
And I know because she's been in the industry before and she knows what's involved. I mean, it's like you were saying. I mean, we the public, we look at this and we're like, oh, such and such has it so easy. They're so famous, blah blah blah. But my whole point in asking if it was rainbows and unicorns after achieving the dream is to highlight the role of a leader, which you are naturally just a leader. Um, it comes with a lot of responsibility that
Mm.
that people may or may not realize, like a lot of responsibility. And I know that you love your audiences and you care about people. And it's so much more than just, it's not singing. It's
Yeah.
like you are literally living your dharma. And I can attest to the fact that when you're on stage, you are healing people. And just sitting in that audience and experiencing that twice, I was just like, whoa. I didn't even know I needed the healing. And then I was receiving it. It was like, wow.
Oh.
Anyway, I'm going on and on. Is there anything that you wish that I would have asked you? Anything that you think is helpful for the
Um,
people tuning in?
I think, yeah, I think one of the things, so going back to your talk, um, when I first obviously saw you, not met you, but saw you, one of the things that I was captivated by was your story in terms of how sick you were and at what point in your life you were at and how you managed to just flip that on. It's obviously not overnight, but what, like you managed to basically bring yourself back from almost being crippled
Yeah,
to where you are now. And so like as we've mentioned, it's not always all sunshine and rainbows, there's a roller coaster and
yeah,
but what for even listeners, like what would you say has been your um go-to practice to keep yourself, because I'm saying to you that I did this thing back in the day, but I didn't know what I was doing really. And yes, I used a jacket as a tool to bring things to me, but since then, as we've mentioned, there have been times where I have pushed things away rather than brought them to me. And so it's like, I think what I'm asking is, if somebody has a dream they want to manifest, what's the main or what's the most important thing maybe that they should be doing
sure.
to bring that about?
Yeah. I, I'm sorry that I'm taking a second to respond.
No,
There were a
no, take
couple
my
things
time.
in what you were saying that just, I don't know, Jai, you have a way with uncovering things with people that I don't even know if you're aware of. I like I'm sitting here on my own podcast squirming.
Sorry,
it's
sorry.
not it's not a sorry. It's really beautiful because you just have a way of getting right to it, whether you feel like you can articulate it the way that you want to articulate it or not. I just um, I'm kind of blown away because this doesn't happen to me very much,
Oh,
like at all. So I'm
you're
like,
like, I asked the questions, not the other way around. Sorry.
it's so good. It's really good, and it's good for see that. Sorry, my son was calling, and I don't have it on do not disturb. Anyway, your question is a really good one. The reason I was emotional is because I was just tuning back into the Allison who 10 years ago
Yeah,
um, was incredibly sick. And yes, I've like I have a ton of experience. Even then I was homesteading. I was advocating for women and children. I was a birth doula. Like I was doing a lot, but what was happening was I was going home and completely dying behind the scenes, and not dying like figuratively, but actually dying.
yeah.
Um, and then I actually did die with septic shock and things after my second son was born. Yeah. So I've definitely I've definitely experienced the extremes of the human experience um, through. Um, I'm like, am I going to talk about this publicly? I guess I am. through being the recipient of abuse, many, pretty much every kind of abuse, and then unconsciously being a part of that cycle, even with my own children, unconsciously. Like I never wanted to hurt anybody, but I look back and I'm like, that was abusive, right? And so like so much shadow work and integration and waking up to these parts of who I was and realizing I'm not okay with any of this. And yet I created this, right? I got myself into these situations. Was it my fault? No. Was it my responsibility to correct? Absolutely. Right. So there's a dichotomy there. So basically, this is a long winded way of answering the question. I will be answering it. But there were so many mental gymnastics that were happening because I was waking up to this part of myself and waking up to that part of myself and waking up here. And then at the same time, being told independently by 4 different healers and doctors that I was headed towards full blown autoimmune disease and a life in a wheelchair and probably an early death. And that's after I had already died of septic shock and come back. So I wasn't in good shape. Okay. And coming to terms with all of that was really difficult. And I could have pushed that away and I could have ignored it and I could have numbed myself with substances. My family of origin has a lot of substance abuse in the, in the line, in the genealogy. And I just knew. And again, I don't know that this is everyone's experience, but I had psychic knowing since I was 3 years old. So I came here awake and I
Yes.
knew what I was supposed to be doing. And then I subsequently had gotten brainwashed by fundamentalist religion and all kinds of different things. Um, Long story, not very short. I had to consciously rewire my insides.
Hmm.
I had to choose to believe that I was already healed, even when I could barely walk to the restroom myself. So, what that looked like was a lot of journaling, a lot, because I had to like get it outside of me and write it down
Yeah.
and then choose and say, I am choosing to believe that I am healed. And then making peace with this dichotomy, this like mental cognitive dissonance that says, Allison, you can barely fucking walk. What
Yeah.
do you mean that you are healed? And it's like, I am healed. It's like, what do you, you're crazy. And then it's like, I guess I'm going to be fucking crazy. I don't care. I'd rather be crazy and alive than have this concept of being sane and dead.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of ego death. There was a lot of journaling, but then like, so I would, this is hopefully answering the question. If someone's coming to an area where they really want to align with their highest and best, even with when something in their circumstances is not in alignment with that, I love the tool of journaling, but also taking aligned action with whatever that is. So, like the example that I would give is for me, it was like, I am healed. I would write that and journal that. But if I stayed in bed all day journaling, then I would still be in bed. But what
Yeah.
I did, I would journal and then I signed myself up for pre-medical studies. I became pre-med. I was going to go into med school and I shifted, but I was like, I'm going to follow and I'm going to do this as if I'm healed. So I would show up in the classroom. I was the oldest student. I went back to college. I already had a degree, but I went back as a 32-year-old and and I showed up as if I was fine. I let everybody believe that I was fine, and I'd go home and I'd crash for 3 days. And then I signed myself up for Tai Chi. And then I would do 30 minutes of a Tai Chi lesson, and that would take everything. I wouldn't be able to move when I got home,
Yeah.
right? But I just kept going in that direction. You have to pick a direction and go. And as a Kung Fu practitioner now of I started studying Tai Chi and Kung Fu 10 years ago. I mean, I couldn't even, it was ridiculous. And I knew I looked ridiculous. I was so self-aware of how weak and unable and incapable that I looked. And I just decided to not give a fuck. And now I can go out and like, I can do whatever I want my body to do. It'll do it. Like I'm the healthiest I've ever been. And I still have a narrow window of place that I can operate, right? And I can't, if I start going outside of that, I pay. I tell people I have the gift of a very sensitive system that I have to listen to because it keeps me in alignment. So for the people listening, if there's something that you want to align and you want to do it quickly, I would say something like journaling. Maybe it's voice noting. Some people have a much better relationship with their voice than they do with the pen. Maybe it's voice noting and listening back and then taking some physical action to match it, right? And then the universe has no choice but to start matching that. It has no choice because it's just a mirror. It's just, it could go on and on and on. I hope that answered your question.
No, I did, and thank you for sharing all of that. Actually, that was a lot more than I expected you to share. So thank you, because I know that's not easy.
It's fine. These are all growth areas for all of us, right? We're always growing and expanding. And so thank you for going there and just asking and using this is another concept I think too, is like when we don't hide in front of one another and we're not putting on these masks that
Yeah,
we had to use in other situations to keep us safe. But when we manifest, and I really think like we manifested this. Like
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
feel safe enough with most people to be seen. And I instantly felt that with you.
no,
And that's just a really beautiful thing to happen. But like I manifested you and you manifested me. And like you manifested BGT and you manifested Meredith and like all these
yeah,
things. When we accept that we are the creator, we get to, we get to go to those dark, shadowy places and own them and integrate them and make friends with them. But we also get to celebrate the amazing things that come into our field: friendships, connections, money, fame. It's not about the fame, it's about the living of the dream, right?
yeah.
And then creating so much good out of it. That's the most beautiful part of it for me.
That's magic.
Yeah. um, I hear the natives are getting restless. I don't know if
Oh,
you know that I homeschool all three of my teenage boys.
oh no,
My
I did
youngest
not.
one is like about to bust the door down. How how are you feeling after such a long and fun conversation?
Oh, great! It's been such a enlightening chat, and I hope the people that have listened have got something from it as well. Because yeah,
Yeah,
I certainly have.
yeah. I'm so grateful that you did that. When I pitched that idea to you, I was like, I would love to have you on the podcast. You're like, you just immediately said yes. I was like, really? You're like,
Yes.
absolutely. I'm like, awesome.
No, but it's
um,
like what you say. Like sometimes, you know, you have to, as long as it feels good, feel the fear and do
yeah,
it anyway, as the quote goes. And it, yeah, yeah, and you, as you say, the likes of Meredith and yourself, you manifest people in your life that vibrate on the same level,
yeah,
as you do. And I've been very lucky in life to have a lot of people who vibrate on my level.
it's really beautiful.
And yeah, it's good.
I think to land the plane, so to speak, and close out the conversation, I was reading a quote. It was the Buddha, I think, that said this. The only mistakes that can be made on the journey there are only two: giving up or never starting.
Yep, very true.
Yeah,
Very true.
yeah, right. So kudos to you for never giving up and for starting.
And you.
And
And you.
yeah, thank you so much for this. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. And this will be airing on the Quantum Paradigm podcast, hopefully
Cool.
next week or the following.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll be sure to
yeah,
share it for people who didn't manage to tune in live.
yeah. All right. Much love. Thank you again.
Thanks,
All right.
Alison.
Bye. Ciao.